I start strong, but typically I dwindle away like the ill-conceived death of some forgotten henchman.
Bond. James Bond.
No Time to Die has been out in the US for just over a week, and it's been about a week now since I saw the film myself, but I haven't read or listened to any other reviews because I wanted my thoughts to be uninfluenced by anyone else's opinions. So this may not be the most insightful review in the world, but I had to get it done just so that I can start listening to and reading some reviews from other way smarter people than me. In my previous video, I listed some things that I was hoping for with regards to the film, and I'm not going to go too far into that because I want to avoid spoilers, but I'll touch on a few of them as we go. First off, for the Bond purist, there is a lot to love about this film. It really honors the legacy of Bond. I find that oftentimes in a franchise when a later film references earlier films, it can be heavy-handed. We've even seen that in the Bond franchise from time to time. I think that in this case, the filmmakers are doing it with such a great amount of care that it really comes across beautifully. If you are a Bond purist, a Bond fan, this film is going to give you a lot of little moments to savor and enjoy that a casual fan or more casual viewer might miss. Similarly, I think that there was a lot of opportunity for them to get heavy-handed with some external agendas, but I was delighted to see that they didn't do that very much at all. The filmmakers really took a lot of care to just focus on character and story, and that really goes a long way to enhance their stewardship of the Bond legacy that's on display in this film. What does wind up being somewhat heavy-handed, I think, is the cinematic universe syndrome. If you haven't seen Spectre, or if you don't remember it very well, there may be some moments in this film that confuse you. It's not too bad. No Time to Die is still very enjoyable on its own, but a lot of the groundwork for the relationships and the story being told was laid in Spectre, and a lot of that didn't really work for me, so I was really hoping that this film would be able to redeem Spectre a little bit, and they do to some extent, but I think that they were also painted into a corner a little bit, and the only way out was through. Now, because they're banking on those relationships that they tried to establish in Spectre, this does wind up being a very personal story for Bond, and that is both a blessing and a curse. It establishes a really strong emotional connection between the character and the events of the story. That really helps to drive the stakes and create some tension, but that also results in some hasty tie-ups and some plot contrivances that don't quite work either. But some of my favorite aspects of this film, this is a truly beautiful film, both to watch and to listen to. I loved the look of the film. The cinematography is absolutely stunning, and it stands next to Skyfall as probably one of the two most beautiful films in the Bond franchise, and as such, it deserves to be seen on a big screen. I also think that Hans Zimmer's score was really nice. His style lends itself very well to a film like this that sits in the place between sweeping, romantic, luxurious epic, and tense action thriller. But there were a few moments where I found myself thinking, that sounds like a Hans Zimmer score rather than that sounds like a James Bond score. I also loved the supporting cast. Lashana Lynch as Nomi was very engaging and a really interesting character to me, and I really enjoyed the relationship and kind of the interplay between her and Bond and how their relationship develops over the course of the film. Rami Malek and Christoph Waltz are both great. They're each haunting in their own way, but I think that neither one of them has quite enough screen time to set himself apart as the menacing presence that the great Bond villains tend to have. Léa Seydoux is fine, I guess. I never really bought the relationship between Bond and Madeleine Swann, and I like it more here than I did in Spectre, but it's unclear to me whether I like it more because they're trading so hard on the little value that they got out of the previous film. But really the highlights of the supporting cast for me are Ben Whishaw as Q and Ana de Armas as Paloma. Ben Whishaw is turning in maybe my favorite Q performance of all time. I know it's sacrilege to speak ill of Desmond Llewellyn. I think that he's a very different character, different type of Q than Desmond Llewellyn, and we really get to see a much more well-rounded character here, and he's very engaging and very charming in his own kind of befuddled way. And Ana de Armas is an absolute delight. She almost steals the film for me. It's really nice to see her back with Daniel Craig after they starred together in Knives Out, and it's clear that they have some really fun back and forth chemistry on screen. I love the dynamic between the two characters, and I wish that she was in the film for longer than she is. But the common thread among all of the supporting cast is that they don't quite have enough screen time to stand out, because this is Daniel Craig's film, and I think he absolutely owns it. This is a very strong ending to Daniel Craig's time as James Bond, and this got me thinking over the past week about the nature of ending strong. A trend exists in the Bond franchise wherein each Bond actor's last time in the role might be his worst. There's a fantastic set of discussions on this theory between Joe Darlington at Being James Bond and David Zaritsky from the Bond Experience. I can't do this discussion any more justice than they already did, so I'll link to those discussions in the description. Please go check them out, they're really fun and engaging. But essentially, the final films of each of the previous actors who played James Bond tend to be among the worst perceived films in the franchise. Refreshingly, I think that Daniel Craig's final film in the role ends on a massive high note. Endings are obviously a part of life. Throughout my life, I haven't often ended strong on the various projects that I've begun. I start strong, but typically I dwindle away like the ill-conceived death of some forgotten henchman. Either my passion withers, or I get distracted, or I allow outside voices or self-doubt to creep in and choke out the inspiration before it ever has a chance to sprout. And that's a pattern that I'm really working on changing. It seems to me that there are really two perspectives or approaches that can lead to a strong ending. The first, as exemplified by this film, is simply to anticipate the ending. When you know that something is coming to an end, that can often give you the drive and the clarity to finish with excellence. When time is running out, we all try harder. But the second approach is even better. With the first approach, you might walk 26 miles of a marathon and then sprint the last 100 yards, and we can all agree that's a strong finish, but no one would say that you ran a good race. But that's where the second approach comes in. If you adopt a habit of maximizing your time and your abilities, then you'll be ready for the end without having to anticipate it. When you've trained well and you're in the habit of just running strong, you're going to finish well, whether it's 20 miles or 30 miles or 50 miles. Whenever the end comes, you're going to finish strong because you're already running well. And this is how James Bond lives his life. We see throughout the films that he doesn't do anything halfway. He doesn't know when his own end will come, and so he lives his life to the fullest, both on the job and off. The past is over, and the future is not promised to us. All the time we have is right now. But if we use our time wisely, we often find that right now is all the time in the world. Daniel Craig's time as James Bond hasn't been strong throughout, but I think it's had a lot more ups than downs. And while No Time to Die may not be everything I had hoped for, it still honors the Bond legacy beautifully, and it's a very strong finish to Daniel Craig's time in the role. So, to finish strong, I'll close with this. I guess that's the end. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you've already seen No Time to Die, please leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the film, what you liked about it. Now that I finally got this video made, I'm excited to start listening to some other people's ideas, other people's feedback, instead of just ruminating on my own thoughts about the film. And let's try to avoid spoilers in the comments, because nobody likes that. Speaking of likes, please drop a like on the video, share it with a Bond fan you know, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching, and au revoir. I have the oddest feeling we'll be seeing each other again sometime.